Very good afternoon to you all. Thank you for watching Uganda Broadcasting Corporation. This is the weekly roundup edition, the stories that made highlights within this week. My name is Wadulo Mark Arnold, and without further ado, these are the stories. To start off, Ugandans were this weekend advised to make proper use of the parish development model money to ensure its intended objectives are achieved. The initiative, which President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni described as a revolving fund, if well utilized, people's economic standards will most likely improve. He echoed this while launching the new parish development model at Chibuku Primary School in Chibuku District.
The message from the Youth Brigade of Kibuku was on point, complemented by another from students of Nandere Secondary School. The emphasis of the day was working for just more than the stomach. And when the ink was put to paper, anxiety over the launch of the parish development model was ended.
The main pillar here is income going from Okore Chida Chonka to working for the Chida and the pocket.
Erigai kuruwa bempange kuruwa program eno kuzwa amukolera Chida Chonka tukolera Chida nenga tukolera nensawo.
That is the main pillar.
Niye empange nene mukintu kino.
The other pillars are to assist in that or supplement. But don't get lost in that.
It was a culmination of a day-long activity at Kibuku Church of Uganda Primary School. President Yoweri Museveni, who earlier on toured various stalls at the venue, expressed optimism in the new model.
We can conserve elephants in the national park. Conserve the swamps, but not conserve poverty. Now we are doing everything wrong. We don't conserve the swamps. We don't conserve the forests. We don't conserve the national parks. But instead we conserve poverty. No, this is not correct. And I have proof that it can be done.
He, however, warned against misuse of disbursed funds, a similar message Prime Minister Robina Babanja had earlier on alluded to.
I also want to encourage the beneficiaries, the local people, the Ugandans, to use the funds for the intended purpose. And of course, as government, Your Excellency, we shall not tolerate any misuse of these funds. Fellow Ugandans, you are aware that these funds are supposed to be borrowed. Use the funds for your own good, and then refund the funds so that others can also benefit.
Now we have changed. We shall get the money and give it to your government at the parish. Government
In their memorandum as districts from Bukedi sub-region, these are some of their pleas.
We still have some bottlenecks that may affect a successful implementation of the parish development model. It is therefore our humble request, Your Excellency, that you ease our connectivity.
Present at the launch was also Vice President Alupo Jessica Rose Epel, among other dignitaries.
All of us and all Ugandans have a right to development. And we as government have a right to remind the people about their role in the development process. And more so to remind them about their responsibility to participate in the programs in ensuring that they improve themselves, their families, and the community, and indeed in the entire government transformation process.
To the local leaders, both able-bodied and disabled, it is a step in the right direction.
We want to make sure this thing helps them to get out of poverty. That is our prayer as the people from this region.
We look forward to really working very hard with the government to supervise this program to ensure that we get value for money. It needs a lot of commitment, of leadership at all levels.
So when they are well mobilized, it can become so easy to improve on their economic status and standards of living. But the bigger question is, how do they intend to organize people with disabilities to target them?
Sliced, spiced and shared. 30% of the 100 million is meant for women. Another 30% for youth, among other beneficiaries. Henry Okrut, UBC.
President Yoweri Museveni on Friday this week returned from the Democratic Republic of Congo's capital, Kinshasa, where he has been for the 10th summit of the heads of state and government of the Framework Agreement for Peace, Security and Cooperation for the Democratic Republic of Congo and the region. Museveni joined his counterparts, the Republic of Congo Brazzaville President, His Excellency Denis Sassou Nguesso, and the President of Angola, His Excellency João Manuel Goncalves Lourenço, and representatives from the 13 countries under the Great Lakes region. The summit saw President Yoweri Museveni hand over chairmanship of the mechanism to DRC's Felix Tshisekedi Tshilombo. His Excellency Museveni was accompanied on the visit by the former Prime Minister and head of the African Global Security Foundation, a continental security think tank, Amama Mbabazi. On arrival back at Entebbe International Airport, the President was received by the Vice President, His Excellency Major Jessica Alupo, and the Minister for Presidency, Babidi Emili Babalanda. Others were the Commander of the Uganda People's Defense Air Force, Lieutenant General Charles Lutaya, and Assistant Inspector General of Police, Andrew Sorowen, and Assistant Commissioner General of Prisons, Samuel Akena. Furthermore, the public service has been encouraged to participate in patriotism training to enable them effectively implement the NDP3. The Ministry of Public Service is among those MDAs that have responded to this call for undertaking patriotism training at Nali Chankwanzi. Now, the Prime Minister Robina Babanja was at Nali Chankwanzi to represent President Yoweri Museveni at the closing of the patriotism training. Let's take a look.
Prime Minister Robina Babanja has closed a 2-week patriotism training for senior staff of the Ministry of Public Service at Nali Chankwanzi. The Prime Minister, who represented President Yoweri Museveni, was received on arrival at Nali by the Minister of Public Service, Muruli Mukasa, and the Institute's Director, Brigadier General Charles Kisembo. President Museveni urged civil servants to be good ambassadors of unity and social-economic transformation.
Of all the parties who have participated in the patriotism program, I commend this initiative because it helps to maintain our collective focus on the most crucial task of building Uganda and Africa. Since the launch of the patriotism program in secondary schools and later higher institutions of learning, a great number of our young citizens have obtained useful knowledge on their role in safeguarding the future and prosperity of Uganda.
Prime Minister Robina Babanja handed over certificates to 45 officers. She also handed over books authored by President Yoweri Museveni about transforming the economy, wealth creation and improving household incomes. The Minister of Public Service, Muruli Mukasa, said the training was in line with the government's policy of enhancing efficient public service delivery. He said the ministry's plan was to have the entire ministry headquarters staff trained on patriotism at Nali.
Nationalism and patriotism are critical pillars in fostering the transformation of our country.
The State Minister of Public Service, Mary Mugasa Kiki, also attended the patriotism training. The course aimed at imparting ideological clarity to the civil servants for enhancement of clean leadership in the ministry. The Director Nali, Brigadier General Charles Kisembo, said the institute trains not only Ugandans but civil servants in the East African region.
Kampala Capital City Authority, led by the physical planner Agaba Vili Amoti, this week covered pits dug in the old taxi park after city moguls claimed ownership of 13 plots in the park sought their possession. Now, however, the barricades in the park remain to date in place.
At the beginning of this week, Kampala-based businessmen also claim unsolved different plots of land that housed the old tax park, which was reopened early January 2022 after its refurbishment. Unfortunately, the park reposes it for development amidst the heavy security. This act led to unrest after pits and holes were dug in the tax park, causing panic to those operating in the park. However, after a period of days, ups and downs, to zero down the issue at hand, last night KCCA's physical planner Agaba Vili Amoti and a team from KCCA with heavy machinery removed all the barricades, blocks and stones that were put in the park. This left many taxi drivers in joy, especially those operating at deserted stages. Wednesday morning, taxis operating at these stages had resumed operation, with blocked loads accessible. However, despite the drivers' and conductors' jubilation, there was a scuffle between drivers and police, from deterring them to park at the restricted stages.
I'm here for security. I don't have any park, any plot here. I don't have any taxi here. I don't have anything here. I'm here for security.
The disagreement eventually called for the intervention by the head of protests at CPS, Benson Oborong, who warned the taxi operators to call off their indiscipline, or else they would be arrested.
Get me clear, don't misquote me. I was not in the meeting yesterday. I don't know what they accepted, what they agreed upon. This is why I'm telling him, let them go back.
Next was the cold war between the two parties, with the taxi drivers insisting to remove all the blocks.
Prime Minister bw'anajja wano tuwajja kusigala ate n'abano babakwate babasibe.
Kampala Capital City Authority physical planner Agaba Vili Amoti ordered the dug holes in the park to be covered for transportation to resume. It is alleged that the removal of the blocks and the barricades out of the park was made after discussion and an agreement with Kampala Capital City Authority, taxi drivers, businessmen and delegates from government to allow convenient transport in the park.
Ekinewuunya kiri kimu bwe kuba kakazimba akagudde lukwagwadduka naye wano bukya tutandika olutalo oluno kati agamba agenda kutuuza meeting
tatuwuddisa akimanyi era akiraba era buli kimu akitegeera niyo wabeerawo abakusinza obukulembeze yogera amazima amatuufu nti nno kyali mufuzi n'ekyokubiri abakulu abali ku ntiko basasireserezo wa musolo kuba bagamba nti bilioni 13 zagenda awantu wano nga waleesewo akakadde okusima ebinnya bannayuganda batubalemu amagezi.
The private secretary to the president in charge of youth, Dr. Hilary Musoke Chisanja, has warned the businessmen against putting to the West government his projects.
Who sold to them? And who are they? Let them go and buy in Kololo. So, this is my appeal to you as ministers, as leaders of Kampala. Before you make decisions, first consult the common people, the Wananchi.
Ivan Juko, Frawa Sempa compiled the report.
In another development, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni this weekend assured LRA War Victims and other people of the Lango sub-region of sustainable peace in the country. The Prime Minister Robina Babanja, who represented President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, was handing over a donation of 30 million shillings to LRA victims to boost their economic activities. Now, Museveni said that the NRM government will work hard for the maintenance of peace as a way of facilitating development.
On February 21, 2004, at about 5:30 in the evening, the LRA rebels attacked innocent civilians at Barlonyo IDP camp that had over 5,000 people, burnt the camp and massacred over 300.
And those two groups start killing the people who are in the camp by putting fire in the hut who are there. And when you try to escape, you abduct you and cut you with the panga and grabs you and threw you in the fire, then you burnt there.
Moses Ogwang, a survivor of the attack and the chairperson massacre site, says President Museveni then promised to compensate the victims' families, but none of them has yet received a coin.
But for us, we are still waiting, because that is the promise from the government side.
We are here, we are being surrounded by 3 churches, and even His Excellency pledged to support, like we want it to be to the standard of Namugongo. See, so this is the Namugongo of Lango. You can compare it to the Namugongo of Kampala, so there's a big difference.
This place should be a historical site, a tourism destination, just like in Germany. I was in Germany where the Jews were killed inside Germany, but they have put commemorations there.
During a memorial prayer held at the massacre site in Ogur Sub-County, LRA District, the Prime Minister of Uganda, Robina Babanja, who was representing the President, assured all the victims' families of a sustainable peace in the country.
Government will continue to work for maintenance of peace in the whole of Uganda and also put the necessary infrastructure in place as a way of facilitating the country's development.
The Prime Minister called upon the church leaders to unify Ugandans and asked the young people to desist from reckless behaviors that will ruin their future.
You should refrain from abuse of drugs, alcoholism, smoking, sexual promiscuity, etc. These endanger your lives and put you at the risk of many incurable diseases and complications.
She also handed over the President's donation of 30 million to the victims' families to boost their economic activities. Every year, a memorial prayer is held at Barlonyo Memorial Site in LRA District to pray for the souls of the over 300 civilians who were massacred by the LRA rebels in 2004. Eddie Olwa, UBC News.
The microphone is needed there. We need a microphone there. Quickly.
The 12th East African Community Partner States Initial Planning Conference for the forthcoming field training exercise was this week rolled out at Silver Springs Hotel in Kampala. Now, the conference was officially opened by Major General George Igumba, the Chief of Personnel and Administration in the Uganda People's Defense Force. These are the details.
Known as Ushirikiano Imara 2022, as members from Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, South Sudan, and the host Uganda, the East African Community Armed Forces are working together to make meaningful decisions on how to counter security threats like terrorism, disaster management, and peace support operations.
Ladies and gentlemen, the joint training exercise of the East African Community Armed Forces will go a long way in enabling us to build synergies that will further strengthen the implementation of the strategic vision of our leaders for the common good of the peoples of East Africa.
Major General George Yegumba, the Chief of Personnel and Administration, represented Major General Leopold Chanda, the Chief of Staff of UPDF, at the opening ceremony. The planning aims at identifying mechanisms that can be universally embraced by all East African community partner states whenever confronted.
It is for this great intention that you are urged, and passionately so, to make good use of your valuable time here while attending this planning conference for the 12th East African Community Armed Forces.
The Deputy Defense Spokesperson, Lieutenant Colonel Ronald Kakulungu, revealed that the exercise targets around 1,500 troops in total.
The troops will be exercised on 4 main themes: peace support operations, counter-terrorism, counter-piracy, and disaster management. It is done in line with the East African Community protocol on defense, on cooperation in defense affairs, and it's carried out on a rotational basis in all the East African community partner states.
In attendance were defense liaison officers, representatives of the Secretary General of East African Community, leaders of delegations from East African Community Armed Forces, among others. Haruna Mutesa Sira, UBC News.
A new contingent of the Uganda Police Force are already in Mogadishu to serve under the African Union mission in Somalia, AMISOM. The contingent that arrived in Mogadishu last evening to begin their one-year tour of duty to support the advancement of the AMISOM police mandate, enhancing rule of law and stabilization efforts in Somalia. These are the details.
Uganda is one of the police contributing countries to AMISOM alongside Kenya, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Ghana and Zambia. The Deputy Contingent Commander, Assistant Superintendent of Police, Daniel Akelo, said they are ready to contribute towards ongoing efforts to restore peace and stability in Somalia.
We shall also jointly work with our other colleagues from other police contributing countries to make sure we help build the forces of Somalia during the transition period to help bring back the peace. We must work with a lot of agility. We must serve with discipline.
The contingent will join their colleagues from other police contributing countries to support the Somali police force to secure the ongoing elections. The force will also perform duties such as guarding key government installations, conducting patrols, ensuring public order, guarding VIPs and high-level events. On arrival in Mogadishu, the new team was received by senior AMISOM police officers.
On behalf of Chief of Staff, Commissioner of Police, Mr. Rex Dundun from PCC of Nigeria, I welcome you all to AMISOM.
The AMISOM police component is made up of the field people units and individual police officers. Field police officers provide operational support, while the individual police officers train, mentor, and advise the Somali police force officers, Mutoni Hilda and Fredericks Idia, UBC.
Now, the State Minister for Information, Communication and Technology, Godfrey Kabyanga, has asked journalists under the Adventist Media Association to be the eyes and ears of the public. This was on a speech delivered for him by the Commissioner at the Ministry of Information and Technology, Moses Watasa, during a dedication service at the SDA Church in Chireka Town.
Promising to serve journalists subscribing to Adventist Media Association, an umbrella body that brings together all media personalities subscribing to the Seventh-day Adventist faith, vow to serve the Almighty using positions acquired.
Okuyisa wakati ekigambo ekyamazima nga mukola omulimu guno nga temulina gwe mutira ku liiso naye nga alina okugololwa mumugolola mu mukwano n'okusaasira.
Commissioner Moses Watasa advocated for a system that identifies and punishes violators of human rights of journalists.
That our ministry, but also the government, we are committed to looking for and continuously reprimanding people who not only harass journalists, but also our people in general.
He urged concerned parties to embrace journalists in the parish development model to improve their welfare. Joshua Msasizi Nsoboga, the president-elect Adventist Media Association, says they are to transform the welfare of journalists.
Our goal is to focus on the financial ability of our members. We believe that journalists are intelligent enough. Journalists are considered as the most brilliant people in the world. They know about everything, but it is challenging that most of our members, the journalists, are financially bankrupt. And sometimes they find themselves forcing themselves to live beyond their limits or to live beyond their means. This time round, we are focusing on the financial ability of every member of this association.
The new leadership has been asked to serve with integrity, always have God in whatever they do. The Minister of Kampala, Hajat Minsa Kabanda, in her speech, pledged support to the Adventist Media Association and asked them to be professional in their line of duty. In another development, Pastor Ntungo Hannington of Chireka Adventist Hill Church dedicated the service to music of praise to the Almighty. Pastor Ntungo says believers should use music to praise God. The leaders-elect for the Adventist Media Association include Joshua Msasizi Nsoboga as president, deputized by Josephine Namakumbi, Amoni Ngabo, among others. Sudat Kaye, UBC News.
Congratulations to our very own Amon Ngabo. Moving on, government is making strategic steps to take on clean energy in the form of solar power in a bid to reduce its current expenditure on power grid hydroelectricity. The Ministry of Defence is taking on a pilot project in partnership with Nexus Green, a UK-based solar company, to roll out hybrid solar systems that will generate power in all the barracks around the country, and that's police barracks. This pavilion rooftop hosts 1,640 solar panels, generating about 516 kilowatts every hour, serving all Kololo ceremonial grounds' power needs, ranging from lighting to powering electrical appliances.
Here at Kololo, we save over 65% on the energy bills. From 18 cents a unit, we've now driven it down to 8.4 cents, and we will drive it down even further on the next project we do, which is at Nakasangola.
The hybrid solar system, worth $1.3 million was installed by Nexus Green in partnership with the Defense Ministry in 2018, with a plan to roll it out to other police barracks around the country.
Because the idea here of the pilot is that power could be generated using solar radiation, and that power could be supplied to the grid. And because supplied to the grid, it's the Ministry of Energy now supplying the power, but at the same time consuming that power from the grid.
The Defense Ministry and Veteran Affairs has been spending over 19.7 billion shillings on electricity per year, but plans to bring the cost down by more than half should the pilot project be rendered successful.
Our budget cannot even meet all of it. We can only pay about 37%.
With a 63 deficit.
63% deficit. So it's a very big burden. But of course, even then, our soldiers in the barracks are not getting enough service, appropriate service, because of that deficit and all this non-payment, non-regular payment to the suppliers of power.
Since the power generated at the sites is in excess of what is utilized, Nexus Green, in partnership with the Energy Ministry, plans to undertake a net metering system where electricity is shared onto the already existing hydropower grid. Wadulo Arnold, UBC News, at Kol. Now, senior fistula surgeons in Uganda recently held a surgical skilling sharing workshop aimed at managing obstetric fistula rampant among young mothers. This was at Terawode Women's Community Hospital in Soroti City. The doctors discussed new ways of improving services among women suffering from obstetric fistula and other related disorders.
This workshop brought together what I would term as the fistula gurus.
Fistula experts from Germany, Ethiopia and Uganda have held a week-long experience sharing forum on strategies to improve health services that will save mothers from obstetric fistula, characterized by continuous and uncontrollable leakage of urine and feces due to rupture in the birth canal, often caused by prolonged and obstructed labor.
This is a discipline that we never had before. Women had problems with the urological problem. Women had problems resulting from childbirth. Women have problems with their pelvic floor.
Surgeons believe experience sharing is paramount in handling obstetric fistula conditions among women, mainly young mothers.
So there is a need of surgical skills and how to have a change of information and really work together on a patient to get the best output.
The district health officer, Soroti District, says such experience sharing will help improve skills among health workers, mainly senior surgeons, handling fistula patients.
Reconstructing the birth canal, for instance. We may not have done many of those as our surgeons here in Uganda, but our colleagues from outside were able to do it, and in that way we believe our senior surgeons have been able to acquire that skill.
At least 2,000 mothers with obstetric fistula are repaired annually across Ugandan hospitals and reintegrated back into their communities.
So this has been quite important. In the process, there were training or learning, but also treating patients in the process. But the knowledge is going to stay with our people here to carry on.
The Executive Director, Terawode Women Community Hospitals, says it is necessary for surgeons to share experiences and train upcoming surgeons about obstetric fistula.
We at Terawode have been able to recognize the need, and have been able to organize this first skills sharing workshop in the care of complex obstetric fistula cases in Uganda.
Obstetric fistula is described as the hole in the birth canal that is caused by prolonged and obstructed labor, resulting into continuous and uncontrollable leakage of urine and feces with a pungent smell, especially due to lack of treatment.
Get very good experience in looking into the bladder using the machine called cystoscopy, where you can be able to look into the bladder and see what problem is in the bladder. If there is a fistula, that is a hole in the bladder, you can be able to see. And in some cases, you can also be able to see and say, I think there is a urinary tract infection.
Experience through consultation, you are bound to learn more. Because when you get complications, you refer to other technocrats, you have contacts to refer to. This is going to help us a lot in making sure that we go far.
Mutonyi Helda and Stephen Mwiri, UBC.
Not knowing how to manage them. But with the coming in of the water, with the coming...
Now, to take you back a little bit, ownership wrangles in the just renovated old taxi park are not about to end, as Kampala Capital City Authority Council recently resolved to have tycoons owning peripheral plots out of the park. KCCA reaffirms that it has a plan for the development of the old taxi park, adding that private developers will not be allowed to take advantage of public property.
There was a hot debate during the Kampala Capital City Authority Council meeting as councillors got furious over the tycoons who have claimed ownership of some plots in the just renovated old taxi park.
The park opened. I saw the Honourable State Minister for Kampala proudly opening the taxi park, and we want to know which understandings were reached prior to the opening, because we didn't see any structural developments, that maybe that is what we are waiting for. So, what is that meeting? Who sat with who and what did they agree on?
The covenants were broken. Because when you are given a lease, KCCA was given a lease to construct a park on that land. So that means that KCCA could not sublease for anybody to do a purpose other than the construction of a park. I have also noted that the Lord Mayor has mentioned that many other conditions of the lease that we got from Kampala District Land Board were violated in the process of subleasing.
Kampala Capital City Authority claims that it does not know the conditions and circumstances under which the said tycoons acquired the plots in the old taxi park.
The Building Control Board is under KCCA. KCCA has got a plan to develop that taxi park. We can't allow any other plan of any other individual developer in the same area. That will thwart our programs.
Relatedly, Kampala Capital City Authority has stopped its staff from collecting dues from the taxi operators within the parks until an ordinance relating to the same is enacted by the authority.
So we have made a resolution in addition to stopping that tax until we have made that ordinance here at KCCA. We are recalling our staff from the field who have been deployed to collect the same.
Kampala Capital City Authority Council meeting also tasked the Internal Audit Standing Committee to urgently produce accountability for the shillings 10 billion that was allocated for the renovation of the old taxi park. Adia Nakuti, UBC.
And we'll now take a short commercial break and bring you back with business right after these messages, so please stay tuned.
MBs are now bigger MBs only on MTN. When you load a daily band of 250 shillings, you no longer get 15 MBs, you get 30 MBs. For 500 shillings, you no longer get 40 MBs, you get 80 MBs. For 1,000 shillings, it's no longer 100 MBs, it's 180 MBs. Dial *150 *10 hash or use the My MTN app to load bigger daily bundles only on MTN. MTN is regulated by the Uganda Communications Commission.
COVID-19 is still here with us. As Sheikh Ramadan Muwajjeh, the Mufti of Uganda, states, let us all take the necessary precautions.
Prevention is always better than cure. Let's not go for prayers in mosques, congregational prayers, unless we are masked. Carry your own prayer mat. Sanitize at the entrance. Let's all value the gift of life.
Because of the new COVID-19 circulating variants like Omicron, it is very important for all of us to be fully vaccinated with 2 doses of the same vaccine type. It's only those getting Johnson & Johnson who receive only a single dose to be fully protected.
Even after vaccination, continue to adhere to all SOPs by wearing a mask properly, covering your mouth and nose, washing your hands regularly with soap and clean water or using an alcohol-based sanitizer, maintaining physical distance of at least 2 meters from others and avoiding crowds. Echa COVID-19, chija kugwa. This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from UNICEF and partners.
Start the year off with My Airtel 4G smartphone. You get to enjoy free 1 GB data valid for a month and 100% bonus data every month for 3 months at only 250,000 Uganda shillings. This includes free data spread over 3 months worth 86,500 Uganda shillings, making the effective price of the 4G phone 163,500 Uganda shillings only. Visit the nearest Airtel shop and get one today. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Welcome back. You're still watching the weekly roundup edition of the UBC Lunchtime News. Now we take you to the world of business. Environmentalists this week hit the streets of Kampala, demanding for implementation of the National Environmental Regulation Act of 2020 that requires the private sector to be responsible of collecting litter. The activists stationed along Ginger Road and Mulago roundabouts and later marched to Chiswa Primary School. And these Other details.
At 5 a.m. in the morning, environmentalists stormed Kampala streets, carrying placards, bearing plastic messages, cautioning the private sector over the misuse of waste and plastics. Championed by the Worldwide Fund for Nature and the Scouts Association of Uganda, they say enough is enough as the country watches the degradation of the environment.
According to the situation of the environment, you find that these plastics are the cause of most of the infections amongst the people because they contain those small particles which people are breathing in.
But all you take water, be mindful of where you're going to dispose that bottle so that to avoid pollution. It can pollute the environment in very many ways, either land, water.
For 2 hours of street protests, the activists then marched to Kiswa Primary School, where they launched the Rethink Plastic campaign, aimed at sending a directive to the private sector to be responsible for their litter.
As human beings who are endowed with our environment and the planet to live on, we have outstripped the capacity of the planet's resources to regenerate by usage. That is one thing. But on top of that, when we use, we also pollute and contaminate.
Living by example, students and officials from WWF activated a cleaning exercise of the Bugolobi market, showing how plastic waste should be dumped or else ends in water bodies. Katumba Wamala, who championed the campaign, said it is not too late for mindset change of natives to adopt the positive mind set towards the environment.
This campaign aims at keeping Uganda clean, green, and to close the youth employment gap through green growth by planting 60 million trees in Uganda over the next 5 years. We should be able to get that. We are 47 million. How can we fail to plant 60 million? How? If you commit yourself that every month I'll plant 2 trees as an individual, and it's possible.
A tree planting exercise was taken on to mark the Earth Hour celebrations. This is a campaign that has been on for decades, championing climate and environmental drive towards policy awareness and action.
Now taking you to infrastructure development, the Ministry of Works and Transport this week commissioned a bridge connecting Rubirizi district to Uganda district. The Deputy Attorney General Jackson Rakafuzi commissioned the bridge and urged residents to take advantage of the connection and transport their produce to the market.
The Deputy Attorney General Jackson Rakafuzi has tasked residents of Rubirizi to take advantage of a bridge connecting their district to Uganda district to market their produce and improve their incomes. Rakafuzi said this during the commissioning of Buhindagi Bridge that is meant to foster development in the 2 districts.
This road is very vital. It connects Uganda, Buhweju, Kitagwenda, Rubirizi, Kasese and Congo. So it's a very important, very central pivotal road that would stave or would reduce the distance of someone going to Kasese going through Mbarara.
Area members of parliament for the 2 interconnected districts asked government to help upgrade area roads that are still in the sorry state.
This bridge is of an important, it plays an important role. Therefore, I'm very happy that it has been commissioned to use it daily.
The chief engineer from the Ministry of Works and Transport, Samson Bagonza, says it is doing its level best to ensure such bridges are worked on despite limited funds.
The ministry will have a budget of 20 billion. Unfortunately, that budget is very small compared to the needs, because it is 20 billion for the whole country.
The bridge, whose construction cost 1.98 billion Uganda shillings, interconnects Uganda to Rubirizi. Residents of the 2 districts have also commended government for the initiative.
Furthermore, government and stakeholders in the mining industry are urged to embrace human rights-based approach to natural resource governance. The call was made at the release of a two-year assessment of human rights abuse in the oil-rich Albertine Graben and marble and gold-rich Karamoja sub-region. Now, the report by ASF and ANARD cite rampant cases of human rights abuse in these regions. Let's take a look.
The extractive industries have the potential to spur development and improve the quality of life for the citizens through generation of significant revenues. However, human rights abuse is commonly cited in the global extractive industries infrastructure development.
Human rights is often seen by government and also private development projects lead as an impediment, as something that hinders efficiency of project implementation.
As the EU, we are supportive of Uganda's efforts to develop a robust policy and legal framework that contributes towards increased transparency and accountability and human rights compliance in the governance of natural resources.
Advocates Sans Frontiers, in partnership with Advocates for Natural Resources and Development, have been implementing a two-year project titled Empowering Communities and Civil Society Development to Demand for Good Governance in Natural Resources Management. It covered the resource-rich Albertine Graben and Karamoja sub-region. They report occurrences of human rights violations, which include compulsory land acquisition, child labor, poor remuneration, lack of access to information, environmental degradation, among others.
There were as well incidents of alleged corruption in both regions. In Karamoja particularly, the incident that was reported involved companies bribing local authorities to prevent Adventist miners from claiming higher wages.
In the right to property, we have also other still aspects that need to be fulfilled, okay? Public interest, then we need payment of a fair and adequate compensation. It's what the Constitution